episode 281 of the Aggressive Progressive Podcast. There's a time to help, and then there's a time to criticize. Now's the time to help. Let's start the show.
We are now the defenders of the stronghold of democracy and of equal opportunity.
You and I, as citizens, have the obligation to shape the debates of our time, not only with the votes we cast, but with the voices we lift.
The people are looking for honest answers, not easy answers.
The very word secrecy is repugnant.
Clear leadership.
And we are, as a people,
not false claims and evasiveness and politics as usual.
Opposed to secret society.
But ours was a nation of the ballot, not the bullet.
And a secret proceedings.
As a people, we cannot afford to let any group of citizens or any individual citizen live or labor under conditions which are injurious to the common welfare.
Black, white, Latino, Asian, Native American, young, old, gay, straight, men, women, folks with disabilities, all pledging allegiance under the same proud flag to this big, bold country that we love. That's what I see. That's the America I know.
Not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
There is nothing wrong with America that cannot be cured by what is right with America.
Welcome to the Aggressive Progressive Podcast. I am your host, Chris Hahn. I'm at Christopher Hahn on X, Christopher Hahn, NY on Instagram, and ChristopherHahn.com. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you guys had a happy new year. And we got a lot to talk about. So, natural disasters should not be partisan under any circumstance. If you want to evaluate how things could have been done better, the time to do that is after the fire is out and the people are restored, right? Whether their houses were burned in a fire or lost in a hurricane or an earthquake or tornado. The time to say, well, this could have been done better is not while the disaster is going on. Even if there are things that could have been done better, and there always are things that could be done better. So my feeling right now, watching what's going on in California and watching the reactions from the incoming president and from others, is to say you never know where and when disaster is going to hit. And maybe you should heed the words of Jesus and judge not, lest ye yourself be judged. I mean, look, I live on an island. Hurricanes have hit it. Things go wrong. Some people live in an area where there are wildfires. Some people live in a tornado zone. In fact, I would suggest that every single corner of the United States of America can be the subject of a natural disaster. What's happening in California, you know, they're complaining about, Trump's complaining about the hydrants not having water in it. Well, hydrants on a regular suburban street are not adequate to fighting what is going on right now. They're for like one house being on fire and the fire, you know, the firemen using it for a couple of hours maybe. This has been days and hundreds, if not thousands of homes being destroyed, people running for their lives, leaving everything they have behind. What they need right now is the assurance that their government, no matter who is in charge of it, whatever letter they have next to their name, will be there for them. We've only had one president in the history of this country to ever distinguish between states that voted for him and states that did not during a natural disaster, and that is Donald Trump. And he is starting off doing it again. He's not even president yet. But the recovery from this horrible fire in California is going to lay squarely on his shoulders. And I know that I'm on a lot of stations in blue states that have a lot of red listeners. You know who you are. You know where you're listening to me or watching me, even if you're watching this on YouTube. So you mean to tell me that you'd be cool with it if your home was burning due to a forest fire that was out of control due to an unreasonably dry climate right now in your area and high winds? You mean to tell me you'd be you'd be cool with the president of the United States complaining about your governor and the actions he should have done or she should have done? Maybe they should have raked the leaves in the forest. You know how absurd that sounds? I'm just saying, it should be nonpartisan, and it has never been partisan until the last couple of years. Look, Trump's taken it to a new level. There have been people like Rand Paul in Congress, in the Senate, who have taken it to this level where they've tried to block funding for disasters. And then the disaster hits their state, and they're all for the funding. Just keep that in mind for those fiscal hawks out there. Because when the disaster hits the fiscal hawk state, they're all for it. How many times do hurricanes hit Florida, a red state right now where Trump lives? How many times? It's happened a bunch during Biden's presidency. Has he ever complained about the governor of Florida, a Republican, Ron DeSantis, who's been very critical of him politically? No, because when the chips are down, we're all Americans. When the crisis hits, we need to work together to make each other whole and to support each other through the crisis. That is leadership, America. And those who will not do that, those who will stay in political mode in a crisis, are trouble for this country. God help us if that's the way he's going to behave the next 4 years. I hope he doesn't. Listen to this. I'll be right back. Welcome back. I am your host, Chris Hahn. I'm at Christopher Hahn on X, Christopher Hahn NY, and Instagram at ChristopherHahn.com. Make sure you're watching me on News Nation, wherever you watch TV. And, of course, the Aggressive Progressive Podcast, now available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. So, yeah, I don't want to dwell on this too much more about this. I mean, I feel it's like a failure of leadership on Trump's part. I mean, Trump should basically be saying right now, I'm praying for the people of Los Angeles whose homes are being threatened and destroyed by these wildfires. He should not be using this as an opportunity to attack Gavin Newsom. He should not be using this as an opportunity to spread misinformation. He should be a leader. First of all, if Gavin Newsom runs for president in 4 years, he will not be running against Donald Trump. Donald Trump can't run for president again in 4 years. Second, this is your opportunity to lead, to show that you're the president for all Americans, not just the president for red state Americans. You know, we can't be divided in these kind of crises. I mean, we wouldn't do that. You wouldn't see me standing in the way of disaster relief going to Alabama or Florida, for that matter. I mean, I have a lot of family in Florida. You mean to tell me you don't think, Donald Trump, that you had voters in Altadena, California? Let me explain something about math. If you got 30% of the vote in Los Angeles County, it's probably more people voted for you in Los Angeles County than probably in the entire state of Wyoming. Just keep that in mind for a minute. If you got 36% in New York City, which I think you did, you got more votes in New York City than in the entire state of Alaska. So, keep in mind that you have supporters everywhere and you have detractors everywhere, right? I mean, the 40% of Democrats that voted, 40% of the people who voted for Democrats in Texas, for example, they dwarf the number of Democrats that voted in Delaware. It's mind-boggling to me that at this point, 10 years in. I mean, Donald Trump has been on the national political stage for real. I mean, he was pretending to be on it for 2 decades. But he, ever since he came down that escalator in 2015 and actually announced that he was running for president, he's been a major player. He's been the only, he's been the main story for 10 years. You think he would have learned a little bit about how this country runs, how this country works, and how there are liberals in red states and there are conservatives in blue states. And you know what? For the most part, everybody gets along. I mean, I live in a blue state, and I got a lot of red state friends, like red stater types. They're living here in this blue state, and they're good people, and I love them. And if their house burnt down, I'd let them stay at mine, and they'd let me stay at theirs. And their houses are nicer than mine. I'm just saying, but no. I'm befuddled by it. Befuddled. I mean, on Thursday, we buried Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter would be building the houses for Republicans who lost their house in that wildfire. He'd be out there with a hammer and a saw and nails, because that's the kind of leader he was. Yes, in America, we duke it out politically. And as Trump himself has said, it's a rough business. But when you win, you then represent the people who voted against you. And you have to treat them the same way you would treat people who voted for you. Because that's what we do in the United States of America. To do otherwise, in my opinion, is un-American. And that is what we are seeing right now from Donald Trump. We are seeing un-American behavior. Un-American behavior that needs to stop. Look, he is going to be president of the United States for the next, 4 years. We can't be having this kind of conversation every time there's a disaster in a state that he doesn't like. We can't be having this conversation. He has to, and look, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. Let's see what he does. I want to be more of, show me what the guy does. Stop telling me what he says. But I just got so offended by what he said here. I am going to give him the benefit of the doubt. He's coming into office in 10 days. Let's see what he does when he gets here. Let's see if he reverses the disaster declaration and the aid that Joe Biden sent there. Let's see what he does. I think too often in the media, myself included, we've gotten into the trap of thinking about what he says and not thinking about what he does. I hope that that's not the case. I hope that when he gets into office, he does the right thing. And he finds a way to help these people in California rebuild. Because this is, you're looking at this now. This is a massive tragedy. It is a massive tragedy. And it's affecting a lot of people. Some of them voted for you, Trump. Some of them didn't. Some of them didn't vote at all, probably. Probably most of them. And a lot of kids, a lot of families. You want to be a leader? Lead. You want to be president for all Americans? Show me. Get out there and do it. Stop with the nonsense. You're not running for re-election. You don't got to gin up any bases anymore. You just have to lead. Leadership doesn't get to choose the crisis and where the crisis happens. Leadership responds to the crisis and helps those affected by the crisis recover. Let's hope, let's pray that he does that, not just in California, but with every crisis that happens in the next 4 years. Because he's going to be president. And there's going to be one president. Listen to this. All right, if this next segment seems a little bit repetitive, it's because I got a lot of pushback when I aired that last segment on the radio. A lot of people on the right heard it, contacted me. Some people saw it on Twitter or YouTube or Instagram. And I got a lot of people complaining about what I said. So I'm going to play you those radio segments now. I think I have a little fun with it. So listen to this. So I've gotten a lot of feedback on my piece last week about leadership during a crisis. A lot of people criticizing me saying, well, what do you mean we can't criticize Gavin Newsom? What do you mean we can't ask questions about how California managed its fire service and managed its forestry and managed its water supply? Yeah, these are all legitimate questions that you can ask when the fires get put out. They're not questions you ask while the fires are still burning and people are running and fighting for their lives. No leader in this universe would act that way. I'll never understand why Trump feels that in the moment of crisis, he could use it to add to division. I don't understand it. First of all, again, I want to remind you, Mr. President-elect, you cannot run for re-election. I get it. You don't like Gavin Newsom. He's who you see when you look in the mirror. You think you're Gavin Newsom. I get it. If he runs for president, he will not be running against you. And again, legitimate questions to ask about their preparedness for these kinds of events. They are not questions you ask while the fires are raging. When the fires are raging, you say, what can I do to help the fires go out? Why are you adding to the stress and the anxiety of the people who are losing their homes right now, tens of thousands of people? Why are you adding to the anxiety of the fire departments and the people who are going to have to rebuild that part of the country? Why would you do that now? Yeah, let them have a hearing 2 or 3 months from now about what went wrong and how we can make it better next time. They should absolutely do that. And by the way, if somebody did something they shouldn't have done, they can be held accountable then. Now is not the time. So for all of you out there, for most of the part, you are like cultists, frankly, who felt that I was attacking Trump while Trump was actually the one doing the attacking. I was pointing out that it's bad leadership, right? If I was pointing this out about anybody else on the planet, you would not have reacted in a similar fashion. But I got a strong reaction about how Trump was right. They should have raked the leaves. Again, you can make all of the accusations you want. You can have all the hearings you want about what happened in this fire. You could have it all. You could do it all. I'm all for accountability, but not in the middle of the crisis. When the crisis is going on, we need to support each other. We need to give comfort to the victims. By the way, we need to support the people trying to put it out. That includes Gavin Newsom. And again, in a transparent government, when this is done, then you could figure out what went wrong and who, if anyone, is to blame. Now, I find it hard anyone's to blame specifically. The LA Fire Department was built to fight one of these fires, not 5, not with 100-mile-an-hour winds. I don't know if anybody could do that. I just don't know that anybody could do that. I don't know anybody could be prepared for that. This seems unprecedented to me. And unfortunately, we are in a period of time now where we are having unprecedented disasters once or twice a year. We've clearly crossed a threshold that may be hard to recover from when it comes to global warming. And now I'm going to hear from people, oh, you're just a global warming. Look outside your freaking window if you don't believe in global warming. Look outside your window, watch your television set, and tell me there's no global warming. right? We had a lightning storm in late December here in New York. A lightning storm. On New Year's Eve, excuse me. It was like 65 degrees and there was lightning. Yeah, it's cold now. But I don't remember lightning storms in, January growing up. Do you in New York? I do recall, these kinds of wildfires in California, never during the rainy season, which they're supposed to be in right now. So, you could say what you want about global warming. You could pretend it doesn't exist. You can make excuses for the people who are denying it, but their interests are not yours. Especially, if you live anywhere, I guess this will. Listen to this. I'll be right back. Welcome back. I am your host, Chris Hahn. I'm at Christopher Hahn on X, Christopher Hahn NY on Instagram, and ChristopherHahn.com. Make sure you are downloading and subscribing to the Aggressive Progressive Podcast, which is now available on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, at The Aggressive Progressive on YouTube. And my audio-only podcast is available wherever you get your podcast. And also watch me on News Nation. It's news for all Americans. All right, so I just want to say a few things to my progressive friends. 7 days from now, right about now, if you're listening to this, most of my, my radio listeners listen to this at noon. Right about now, 7 days from now, Donald Trump will become the 47th president of the United States. He'll now be the 45th and the 47th president of the United States. And I know that that's troubling for a lot of you. I know I've been hearing from a lot of you. I've been talking to a lot of you. Hey, I'm worried about it too. It's not the result I wanted, but it is the result we got, right? So what are we supposed to do for the next 4 years? Well, one, we can't pick stupid fights. We can't constantly be reacting to every nonsense thing he throws out. I've been saying this a lot. The man is either a stand-up comic trying out material half the time, see what sticks, or he is a magician trying to distract us from what he's really doing. I actually think he's more the magician. I think Donald Trump wants us distracted, and I think we have been distracted for the last few weeks. We're distracted by his reaction to these wildfires. We are distracted by his calls to annex Canada and go to war with Greenland and Panama. We're distracted by that. You know what we're not watching? His cabinet picks. We haven't been discussing his cabinet picks. And the hearings for some of these people start this week. And, while I expect him to get most of the cabinet picks he wants, as he should, right? I mean, that's what happens when you are president of the United States. You get a cabinet. And barring some, real problem with the nominees, you should get them. Your name is on the door. What they do will reflect on you. I think that there are a couple that he's put up, particularly Pete Hegseth, who are problems. And by the way, problems for him. And as I have said before, even without the allegations about Pete Hegseth, even without, and there's some horrible things that have been said, and we'll see if it comes out in the hearings. Some of that was in a police report. We always talk, the Republicans want to say, oh, it's just anonymous reports. It's just like Kavanaugh. The Democrats are trying to railroad him for something he did years ago. Well, it's not that long ago, these police reports in New York City. Even without that, how on earth is he qualified to lead the United States military? It makes no sense. I know he served, and we are proud and thankful for his service. But he's never led anything even close to this. And I get it. I hear what Trump says. It's a tragedy if he doesn't get it because he gave up being a host on Fox News and making millions of dollars. And yeah, it's a tragedy. I don't know, like, if Trump called me today and asked me to be, I don't know, Secretary of the Treasury, what a great job that is, right? Your name is on the money. I would say, I'm sorry, Mr. President, I am not qualified for that job. I can barely add, right? Secretary of Defense, leading all the branches of our military, a bureaucracy. I think that there's about 3 million people involved in the Department of Defense across all continents. Space. I think that Pete Hegseth, I know he's a very handsome man. And I know that very handsome men think they can do anything because all their lives people have just been opening doors for them. And he's been on Fox News now in a very important position as an anchor. And I know that he gets his butt kissed, several times a day. But maybe a little self-awareness about his ability. Now, look, if he gets them, then he's going to actually have to do the job. I don't know how he does the job, right? Pete Hegseth has this whole rap about the military's too woke, which is, by the way, B freaking S. Okay? Whatever. Oh, everybody's got to take one class a year on how to deal with people, and that makes them too woke. Okay, you'll cancel that class. What are you going to do after that, Pete? What are you going to do after you cancel the DEI class that everybody has to take once a year? What are you going to do? What's your next thing? What comes next? Because on day one, you could cancel that. Donald Trump doesn't even need you to do that. He could do it. What do you do next? I mean, he's going to get Trump in trouble. And don't let Trump disown his cabinet picks when they mess up. And they will. He owns every single thing they do. You own it. And if I was advising you, I'd tell you to pick better people. I'd tell you to take less high profile people because this ain't gonna work. It should be obvious to you that you don't want these people making noise. You don't want them doing things that are going to just mess with you. Remember, you got about 10 months to get anything substantial done in Congress. Now, granted, you'll have the power of the presidency for 3+ years after that. But your legislative agenda is going to get stuck. And then you'll probably wind up with a Democratic Congress following that. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your capital. All right, I'm going to remind you now, as I always do, to seek the truth. Question everyone and everything, even me. Seek the truth. I know it's out there. I know you'll find it if you look for it. And I'll be back here again real soon to tell you the truth as I see it. I'm Chris Hahn. Thanks for joining me on the Aggressive Progressive Podcast.